Welcome back to Backcountry BSing in the new studio with the new things on the walls. Looking good.
It looks like the backcountry.
Look, this is a special one.
Yeah, we've been wanting to talk to this gentleman a long time now.
A long time.
And this is kind of continuing a tradition lately of talking to cottage vendors as well.
Yes. So we are talking to the world famous Dutch from Dutchware Gear. We've got our Endeavor Brews here. This is someone Andy and I have long looked up to in terms of his hammock ingenuity and the products he has, and it's going to be an honor to talk to him.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk hammocks and all sorts of fun stuff. So
let's get him on. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah.
This has been something Andy and I have been looking forward to for a while, ever since months ago when you were warm to it, but it wasn't the right time. And then I was like, okay, you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah.
And this is a better time now.
This is a better time. I know, right? This is a better time than a lockdown. So first, we kind of started talking to him, but how are things going from the
command center?
From the command center.
Well, it's going okay. We've switched over to doing PPE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And that gives us limited production, but we're not producing other than I have a lot of stock items.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm able to, actually, I'm amazed at how long I can keep going. I've been going a month now, just pulling out of my inventory.
Really?
And, I run out of some things. I run out of whoopee slings. I go and I make up some whoopee slings. I run out of straps. I go make my own straps. Every order, I go and I look down through them and I'm just like shaking my head like this guy wants everything I don't have.
I knew. I saw you were doing gowns. What?
I saw the plastic face
What's
mask
all the
too.
PPE you're making?
Well, the gowns is what I'm most proud of because we started with the local hospital needed material to make masks. So we don't have a whole lot of cotton used for that.
Yeah.
But my seamstresses and my mom seemed to have a lot for quilting. So I gathered all that up and we made a donation. And then they were pushing for more stuff. And I went and I said, well, I think we can produce gowns and some other stuff. Originally, it was mostly just to cut them on my laser. So that conversation happened on a Monday, 2 Mondays ago, I think. Yeah, 2 Mondays ago. Tuesday, they brought over a gown, and my head seamstress came in and made a pattern of it.
Oh, nice.
That evening, I went and I took it to the designer, who doesn't live very far, and from his home, he went and he put it into the laser cutter. The next morning, Alex was driving around the country in an ambulance. That's another story, but the next morning, I went and I had I had somebody come in and set it up on the laser, and we cut them out on the laser, and we were able to prototype them that day. So it took I would say about 36 hours to go from getting the sample to getting it approved.
Oh.
And then the very following day, which was Good Friday, we were in production and we were producing. We donated the first 100 gowns, and our fabrics are pretty high end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they were getting really nice gowns.
Do they know that they're getting
so
state of the art?
Are those disposable or do they wash them?
They do wash them, but
Okay.
From what they gave me to what we're making them, we're using ion fabric.
Yeah.
They're getting some lightweight.
Ultralight gowns.
And actually, we ran out of ion fabric, so we switched to Hexon. So they're getting Hexon.
Oh my God.
Hexon 2.4 gowns.
Is that the heaviest?
No,
Is that the heaviest Hexon that you have?
it is the heaviest, but it's still fairly light.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But it, if they want to, they could suspend themselves in their gowns.
Yeah.
You should put little attachments on it so they could.
Yeah.
They could.
Whoopee sling.
Yeah. What else are you guys making?
Well, we made we made some masks. We haven't pushed selling them or anything.
Yeah.
We're kind of limited on the materials for that, but we're making these clear,
Right.
not the masks for your face or for your mouth, but the clear ones for a face shield.
Face shields, yeah.
Yeah, I saw those on Instagram, I think.
Yep, we were able to cut them out on laser, and we cut 100 of them, and we just donated them to the hospital.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
And then we were also able to make these. They were pretty neat. Now we've seen them made on the 3D printer, where they are an ear relief for your face mask.
Oh yeah, like the little thing. That, like,
yeah, but it takes them 3D printing is so slow.
Yeah.
And it takes like an hour to make one, and we can cut them out on the laser in lightning speed.
Yeah.
And we're able to sell those things for $1 a piece. And again, we're able to donate them to the hospital. So we donated 100 of those to the hospital.
Wow.
The hospital's hooked up. The hospital got everywhere, man.
Exxon 2.0 surgical gowns. When's the Dutchware medical line gonna come out?
Yeah.
Actually, the whole idea kind of scares me because I'm waiting for the first lawyer to be like, well, what test did you do?
Oh boy.
No, it's cool. Everything that's happening right now sucks, but it's cool to see, companies like you, like Andy and I, literally before this, there's a distillery down the road from me that's selling hand sanitizer now. And like all the companies kind of like,
that is really cool.
Yeah.
kind of like scrambling to provide and utilize the things that they have to like help with this. And I think that's a very cool thing to see what's going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of like a weird thing that's happened because of all this. I mean, it sucks that we're shut down, but people are like stepping up in all these interesting, cool ways. And I think it speaks to like, I don't know, this country. It's cool.
Absolutely.
So I want to go back a little bit and talk about how, so you thru hiked the AT in 2003, right?
Yep.
So I want to talk about what inspired you to hike the AT, and then how did that get you into Dutchware?
Well, actually, I was not a hiker. I may have done 50 miles in my life. I doubt that. I was actually hunting, and
Nice.
And my style of hunting is leaning against a tree and taking a nap.
You fit in Ohio. That's how we hunt.
So I woke up one day, and it was snowing in the woods. It was November, and it was snowing, but the sun was shining. It was like I was in a snow globe. And I was kind of like at an angry place in my life where I didn't like my job and stuff. And that's when I decided. So that's November, and I decided that I was going to thru hike that year. And it was just, I wanted to just stay in the woods.
Yeah.
So I started out my planning to do that, and I left late March, early April, and I planned for I went on white blazes like everybody else does. I did the same research that everybody else did back then, but hammocks were just starting to come on, and somebody went and said I would use a hammock. So I went and I bought a Hennessy hammock. I was 10 pounds overweight when I bought it, and 10 pounds over the weight limit, I should say.
Oh, nice.
And so I started doing this like exercise that I would go jogging with my backpack to try and get in shape. Made these incredible plans. I knew how many miles I was going to hike every day on the Appalachian Trail.
Wow.
Yeah. I threw that plan away.
Yeah.
But my first full night in a hammock was on Springer Mountain.
Really?
And I want you to imagine,
dirty little secret here at Dutchware.
I want you to imagine, we got nothing. You got a Hennessy hammock, you got a napkin for a tarp.
Yeah.
That is the diamond shape, and I mean he's even made them bigger than what they were back then. Back then it was maybe 3 inches past the hammock. You could get more coverage. I'm tying ropes.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping on a pad.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping on a Z rest. So that's like half the width of me.
Yeah.
But the hammock, I mean, it really worked well. It was a really rainy year, but I think hammocks are perfect for hiking the AT because there's almost always trees.
Yes.
and it really helps for dispersing people.
Yeah.
Because you're not all congregated around that shelter.
Were you like always into hammocks before you got into wanting to hike the AT, or like were you just like, I'm gonna hike the AT and I'm gonna do it in a hammock?
Somebody said I want to do it. Somebody said to do it in a hammock.
Yep, I picked the hammock as a choice. I was looking for a tent, and someone said I'd do it in a hammock, and I took their advice. And
so
or there'd be no Dutchware.
Yeah.
So the whole way down the AT, are you just thinking about, oh, I can change this. I could make this easier if I only had this.
How long? So you hiked in 2003, and then so first off, what were you doing before you hiked the AT?
Immediately before, I was an electrician.
Okay.
I've been in the plastic field a lot. Middle management, which is a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
So I mean, a little bit of like some engineering going on, but nothing that really translates. Some manufacturing that translates well to what I do now.
Okay.
But I was never really into hammocks and even when I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, it just happens that year, Jacks Are Better, Peter Pan and Smee, the owners, the originators of Jacks Are Better, were also hiking.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I happened to run into them early. They were doing like a 500-mile section.
Oh.
They called themselves the Old Geezers. So they were talking to this other girl that was in hammock, and hammocks were very few. There might have been 10 that year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I can remember the girl was 2-dog night, and she hiked with 2 dogs, and she wanted a bigger tarp because her Hennessy tarp was just too darn small and her dogs were getting wet. And they were talking to her, and they were talking about staying warm and things like that. Now, all this stuff isn't on my mind. The only thing that's on my mind are cheeseburgers and the next town stop. All right. I remember this conversation because they were like coming up with these ideas for her problems.
Okay.
And so the Jacks were doing it. I wasn't doing it.
Right.
and everybody hikes at a different pace.
Right.
I might have run into a couple more times. But it wasn't until many years later that I realized who they were and that conversation that took place.
Oh, that's cool.
And they are the original cottage vendor. They're the ones that really started it, and they really saw the need. They are the original manufacturer of the quilts, and larger tarps, and lightweight tarps. There's a lot of us that are following them on their coattails.
So they, and this is,
I didn't know any of this.
This is amazing.
This is cool.
Hammock history.
Yeah, this is cool.
So they get credited with like kind of the first ideas behind underquilts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really? Oh, this
Absolutely.
is cool.
They were the first commercial underquilt. There was a couple DIY ones.
Right.
And then they came out with a whole line for quilts. There was a couple things coming out also from Spear Hammock. They were a real early one.
Right.
But nothing like the Jacks. Jacks were full-fledged doing it.
So when you ran into them on the AT, did they have the company at that point, or were they just like kicking around ideas?
Nope, they were.
Did they have underquilts?
They're from the military. They were friends.
Okay.
And I think they were kicking around the idea. Peter Pan is a logistics officer from the military. He's retired, and he knows all these things about supply chains and things of that nature.
That's helpful for starting a company. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, Jacks Are Better. They did more than that. When you go to a hang and there's a raffle, they're the one that started that tradition.
Oh.
Maha was one of the first ones, and then there was also the winter hang down at Mount Rogers. These are
Okay.
the very earliest hangs that ever happened. And Jack Sarbetter was the only real vendor at that time,
Right.
or one of the very first starting ones. So they would always bring all these things to raffle off, and it was nothing but Jack Sarbetter gear. There was no other vendors, and that practice has been repeated through the years. But they were the originators of this.
So now you got me thinking, because I was thinking back to like years ago when I started first researching hammocks, but were they credited with like the first whoopee sling too? Is that them?
No, and I can tell you just because I remember that conversation.
Okay.
Whoopee slings.
Because I remember looking on their website like many years ago, and they had whoopee slings for sale, and I had never seen them before. So
So much came from hammock forums, especially in the early years.
Yeah.
yeah,
And hammock forums was, first of all, you had the hammock enthusiast, but there was a big DIY crowd there that was coming up with solutions. That was a fun time.
yeah.
When there was 500 to 1,000 members, and War Bonnet Guy was on there. Whenever I asked a question, I always wanted War Bonnet Guy to answer my question because that dude, he knew all about ropes, he knew about knots, he knew about materials, and I didn't know anything. So I'd always be like, "Hey, what rope would be good for this?" And I'm like, asking to the general population, but I'm like, I hope War Bonnet Guy answers. So there was Grizz was on it, and there was a lot of other people. So somebody came on there and they posted under suspension about whoopee slings, and they came from the arborist industry.
Oh,
No.
that makes sense.
And it didn't get any attention. And then like 3 weeks, maybe a month later, somebody went and said, "Hey, I think we should revisit this." and they looked into it. By this point, I was doing a little bit of manufacturing. And I was doing the Dutch clip. That's really all I was producing at the time. And the Dutch clip, the whole purpose of the Dutch clip was because back in those days, everybody used cinch buckles or the rings,
Right, right.
and descending rings, and you had to take them out of that in order to feed it through its own loop. Or you had to have a climbing beater. Climbing beaters weigh a lot.
Yeah.
So I went and I came up with the Dutch clip, which was really just for my own convenience. And so when that came out with the whoopee sling, I thought, well, people aren't going to need the Dutch clip anymore. And I was like, well, I guess that was a fun run. Actually,
That's funny.
If you'll entertain me with talking about the Dutch clip.
No.
Yeah.
When-
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had made I was doing gear because I like to make gear.
Right.
And I made something called a bridge skin, which is a bridge hammock that folds up into a backpack.
Into a backpack. I've seen this. You may have a video on this, an old one,
Yeah.
don't you? Yeah.
And it was, I mean, really, a lot of what I was doing was just so I would get attention on the internet. and so I would go and I'd post all these pictures and everything on it. And I was most proud of this piece. It probably is still one of the things. I mean, it was totally original idea. It's really functional. You only use one at a time. It was not a manufacturable idea because I'd put like, I don't know, 80 hours into making one or something.
Wow.
But I didn't want to put a big old carabiner on the end of the suspension because this was my second one, and I really lightened it up every place I could. So I went and I made the first Dutch clip out of just some scrap aluminum. Made it with a file and a hacksaw.
Really?
A vise, and I sculpted this thing into a Dutch clip.
Wow.
That's sweet.
So I went and I took it to Maha, and it was like the second or third Maha, and I was showing it to Peter Pan from Jack Sarbetter, and 2QZQ was there. Now 2QZQ happens to live in the same county as me,
Right.
and so he joined in the conversation, and I'm talking about the bridge skin, and he just keeps fixating on the Dutch clip, and he's like, yeah. tell me about this. And I'm like, yeah, I just made that out of some scrap aluminum. But look at this really cool backpack. It unfolds into a hammock. The center
cool.
bars are the supports for. And he's like, yeah, but man, we could make these Dutch clips. And I'm like, yeah, but so I didn't want to be a vendor at this time.
What
there
year
were
was
people
this?
popping up, wanting to become vendors and wanting to sell. And to tell you the truth, that little click that was happening before stopped, and nobody shared their ideas anymore. And that was my joy. That was my fun in doing all of this. Was that I could create something, I could post it, and people would say, "You're really great," and people would always want to buy it, and I'd be like, "No, I spent all this time making it. I'm not going to put it into a box and ship it away and never see it again." And so when 2QZQ or Tim said, "Hey, I really want to go and make these," I said, "I really don't want to make these." And he said, "Well, then I'm going to make it." I'm like, "Well, you're not going to make my idea." So we kind of kicked it around a little bit, and money messes up everything.
Yeah.
So we went and we were going to make 15 cents per Dutch clip. And we couldn't figure out how to split up the profits at 15 cents. So
15
finally,
cents.
because I wanted to take all of that out of it to kind of give it a bit of purity, we did it for charity.
Okay, nice.
And at the time, my charity was Meals on Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get Meals on Wheels, a lot of people don't know this, but they actually pay for that. The people have to pay like $5 to $6 a meal to have those meals delivered. And so to make sure all the money went to it, Dutch Clips would pay for those meals directly. So instead of getting a bill for $25 for the week, they would get a note saying Dutch Clips has purchased.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So we did that, and we put it on Hammock Forums, and in an hour we sold 350.
Oh my God.
And there was some kind of commercial about something like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we turned it off. Because
GPS commercial.
we didn't even, all we had was a prototype. We didn't even know how we were going to make them.
That's funny.
So we went and there was some people that were on the internet that evening, but then the next day they're all reading this post being like, how do I get these? How do I get these? And everybody wants them. So we decided to turn it on again. And we turn it on for an hour. Again, we sell 350 pair.
Wow.
So we turn it back off, and we said, we're going to have to make these. and we did it with, Tim is a plumber, so he had this aluminum oxide sandpaper that was in strips.
Oh, no.
And we would stick the clip into basically a hugger, and we would sit there like a shoe shine boy.
Oh, that's how you made
rounding
them?
off the edges. Do that for 700 pairs.
No.
Oh, no.
And so, sir, we're trying, throwing them in polishers, and all we have is like this little Harbor Freight polisher. Tim was running out his house, and finally he's like, you have to take this thing. It runs 24 hours a day. It makes nothing but noise. And it really, it was doing nothing. Finally, we went and we took him to a place that makes pewter. And they had these polishers that were like 4 foot wide, and we dump them in there, and that polished them up like unbelievably good. But then they kept when we distributed all these, everybody wanted more, and all their friends wanted them, and all the people that didn't get in on those first two buys wanted them, and it was exciting, but it was still a little bit scary.
That's crazy.
This is a great story.
No, I was just thinking, like, in all for like 15, 16 cents per. God.
You made like $30.
Yeah, you made like.
So what year was that? when that happened?
I believe that's 2008.
So then how did we get from you making Dutch clips with 2Q ZQ with some sanding paper effectively to Dutchware?
The next product that really came out was the tarp fly.
Okay.
And the Dutch hook.
Yep.
And the previous moderators on hammock forums, they were talking and they were saying we really need something better than the Night Eyes Figure 9. That the aluminum ones were bending.
Yes. Yeah. I know what that is.
They asked, they said, it'd be really neat to make them out of titanium. And I didn't know, I'm not a machinist or anything. So I was getting the Dutch clips water jet cut.
Oh, okay.
So I took, it cost me, I don't know, I think $120. And I got a 4x4 square of 1/8 titanium.
Oh, you just bought a brick of titanium?
No, it was thin. It was a thin blade.
Okay.
So I took it to the water jet cutter, who was he's very local. It's a couple miles from my house, and he is at one time he was a farmer, and he's a Mennonite with a water jet cutter in his barn.
Okay.
And the reason he got it was he made these fans. Only the mother of all fans. These fans have 15-foot fan blades.
Oh,
And
wow.
They're called the cattle cooler.
Oh,
And
okay.
they run at a slow speed and move a bunch of air. And he if you know anything about the Mennonites, they are incredible craftsmen.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts a thermostat control on this, that varied speed, the little transmission that he builds himself. The man's amazing. But the fan blades were costing him so much that it was cheaper for him just to buy a water jet cutter, which is $140,000.
Oh.
And so he farmed this out with a water jet cutting business, became a bigger business than the fan blades.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And actually, his son now runs this water jet cutter, and now has bought. I think they have a total of 5 water jet cutters that they go all the time. But they have been fantastic to me. Probably one of my greatest secrets, because they work at a great price. Mm-hmm. and they just work when I need to prototype something, I send it over. Sometimes I just need to adjust the drawing, and they'll do that for me. And they'll prototype out 10 things, and I won't buy any of them. And then the 11th thing is something that I'll buy, and they know that I'm going to buy eventually. Mm-hmm. But I went and I took titanium to them, and they were like, "Well, we don't even know if we can cut titanium. We're just squirting water on it."
Yeah.
So I went and I kind of drew up the tarp fly design. The whole idea was to get a stronger figure 9, that everything was more in line, and that you could slide up and down on the rope, and it wouldn't rust or corrode. So they did cut it, and they said it was the craziest thing that they ever saw, because on the other side, coming out the back side of it, is sparks. So when titanium cuts, even with water, it sparks.
Really? It sparks? Wow.
Yes. I've seen people take like titanium shavings and put them in a shotgun shell and blast them out, and it shoots out like, I don't know, something happens with titanium that reacts like that.
Like oxidizes or something.
Yeah.
So they produced the tarp fly for me, but originally it had more. It looked like a K. Matter of fact, I was going to call it the something K. I can't remember the exact name of it. But I could never get the string to hold, and it wasn't. It was feeling like a failure. And then it was just before a winter hang, I went and I took it, and I got fed up with it, because I thought that if I just did it like a mooring boat, that it would hold.
Yeah.
But it just, winds would catch it, and it just would never hold for me. But then I went and I bent down the one part of the K, and that's what you see for that, the antenna going in the back.
Oh, okay.
And that whole premise of going around 360 degrees and then putting it through a cinch has been repeated on a lot of my parts. The fleas, the wasp, the stingers.
I was gonna, stingers.
It's pretty much the same concept of wrap around 360 degrees to take off the tension and then cinch it with using a non-sheathed rope because they compress.
I was happy you brought up stingers. So Andy and I, we are like our channel. There's like there's some products we just obsess about on a lot of videos, and the Dutchware stingers is certainly one of them.
Yeah,
they don't get enough love.
They don't get enough love.
We rave about that. It's such an ingenious way to string a tarp up.
It's so quick.
It's so quick. It's so easy, and the tension holds. And we tell everyone, like, stop screwing around with these huge ridge lines, these continuous ridge lines. Just get some stingers, throw it up there. It's so easy.
Yeah.
So you made the Dutch clip. Then you started making a bunch of other hardware. But then at some point, when did you start to, I don't know if you call it like go big time, but really open up because what was the first hammock you started with? Was it the netless one?
Yeah, it was a netless, and the way that came about was Adam from Hammock Gear.
Okay.
Now, I had known Adam before either of us had a business.
Mm-hmm.
He's right down he's like a couple miles. He's like very close to us. We've never met him, but he's in the Columbus area.
I bet he's not. I bet he's in Arizona right now. Okay, I bet he's in the desert right now, making his freckles even worse.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause the guy never works at all. So if you want to credit somebody, you want to credit Harry, and you want to credit Sally. Anything has to do with Hammock Gear.
That's funny. That's funny.
So anyhow, I was lollygagging with Adam as he always is, and he went and he was just getting started, and he said, "Man, I am having a hard time getting fabrics." But the problem is that he didn't have the collateral to buy what you had to bulk. So he was getting, I mean, just whatever you could get from Westmark as a supplier. I think that's probably where he was getting from. I'm not positive, but he wasn't able to offer the array of choices of different quality fabrics. They changed every time you get a different roll of fabric. So, it's a different green this time. And so he said it would be great if I started doing fabrics and then selling DIY supplies. And DIY, I mean, that's really my passion. I mean, creating gear is what caused all this. But it was a good opportunity because he would buy the fabrics from me if I just stocked them.
Oh,
so
okay.
I bought my first Argon and bought the Argon 67, which it was. I ran into a little bit of luck that the supplier I ran into was a good one, and I wound up hitting at a good. I hit a home run with my very first one. I did not know that much about fabrics other than just using them, and but very quickly I kept going back to that well, and finally I made the Argon 67 and the Argon 90. I made an Argon sill, but that didn't work that well because it had too much stretch. But then I came out with the Argon 1.6, and it was unlike any hammock fabric I've ever had. I still like it. I don't own any more of it. The Hexon has taken over for it. But what was really sweet about the Argon 1.6 was it was the hand feel to it. It wasn't like plastic. And I didn't even know why. And I had to find out why later. It gets down to the filament, and it's not a smooth filament. It's a filament that if you were to blow it up would have all these little hairs and stuff. So it is cottony-like. But the reason it made a good hammock fabric was because it wasn't slick. And it had some grab to it. And the Hexon basically is the same thing, only I added a lot more ripstop to that old Argon. So I was planning on becoming more of a fabric supplier, at the time it was, there was Through Hiker was a good source for fabrics, and that's where I was buying my fabrics when I'd make things. And Seattle Fabrics, I think that was a couple Quest. Those about the only ones that were really around, and there was definitely a market for it. And so then I wanted to make a simple netless hammock, and so I hired a seamstress, and she would work from home and she would make those. It was pretty. We were able to make them at a good price because we were buying the fabric in bulk ourselves. We weren't buying off somebody else. So we came out with the $30 netless hammock, which was, and I only made, after I paid the seamstress, I think I made $2 per hammock. But when people bought that hammock, they bought what I really wanted them to buy was a suspension.
Okay.
And it's kind of like selling printers. You're not selling printers.
Yeah.
You're selling.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that was the business model, was to produce a very inexpensive hammock that anybody could buy, and then a really good suspension that could go on that, because what you usually had was a cheap hammock with a really crappy suspension.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So now we're at Dutchware, which I view as like you're pretty big right now. What do you, so I ask everybody, every cottage vendor that we talk to, I ask this question, and don't give away any trade secrets, but what do you think is the next big thing in hammocks or in backpacking or like in the cottage vendor? Like, is it a new fabric? Is it more stuff with Dyneema? Like, what do you think is like, because we like technology and we like the advancements. I mean, the advancements you've made with fabrics and hammock design, like, what do you think is going to be like the next big thing for either hammocks or backpacking or anything? You're a good one to ask.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's going to be some new methods for and wider fabrics.
Okay.
You're going to have things like single panel tarps.
Oh.
That you don't have to have a ridge line, that day will come, because they can make fabrics that wide.
Yeah.
They're just not making those fabrics that wide and then silicone them. They're getting pretty wide. They're getting about 75 inches, but they need to get to like 100 inches, and you have that. For hammocks, the trend that I see now is people are going to be going from 11-foot to 12-foot hammocks.
Yeah. Oh God. We're getting longer.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, man.
I thought 11 foot. We're 6'2" and 11 foot's big.
I just made one for a friend. I made it. I made it really special for him with putting a lot of the chameleon features on just a netless hammock, so he could put a beach shelf on it and stuff.
Okay.
But it's a wide hammock. It's got knotty mods.
Oh, nice.
And 12-foot long. Jeez. And so I wanted to set if you don't sit in the hammock, the suspension doesn't really get set in and come undone.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to get in there, and I laid in that baby, and I'm like, oh crap, this is a nice hammock.
So is it that much? Like, does the length really? Because we have 11-foot hammocks. Now I know the standard was 10 before that, and then 11. As the Chameleon was the first 11-foot hammock I think I had. Well, we had the XLC. I think the XLC might be. Anyway, so is 12, like, if you're like a regularly sized person, is 12 going to make you that much more comfortable than 11? Or do you have to be like 6'8" for it to really like matter?
No, you notice it because there's nothing pulling in towards the ends.
Oh, I see.
It's
I
as
see.
open as it can be, especially when you go wide.
Okay.
Now, there's diminishing results there. I don't see going 13.
You say that.
This is gonna be like this is the Cadillac of hammocks.
A 12-foot hammock? Good Lord. That's
And actually, we did just introduce the 12-footer, and it's and it comes standard with knotty mods. It's a wide fabric.
A 12-foot wide.
Oh my God.
No, not 12-foot wide. It's 12-foot long. And did I say 12-foot wide? I'm sorry.
No, I mean but a wide cut.
Was it a wide cut with a 12-foot hammock?
Yeah, it's like 72 inches wide.
Oh wow.
You want naughty mods on that because that's a lot of fabric, and you want to kind of take
Yeah.
up the tension on that. And I actually we were able to produce them because we at a really good price. Really, it's not that much more weight
Hmm.
or another foot of hammock.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing with tarps. It's not that much weight for an extra foot of tarp.
Yeah.
And especially since most of the weight of a tarp is like in the perimeter. You got to have that
Yeah.
anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So, I like to be light, but man, I like a big tarp.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we first bought tarps, we didn't even think about getting an 11-foot tarp. We went straight to 12-foot tarps.
Yeah.
We're like, it doesn't seem it's like if you have an 11-foot hammock, and granted it's not 11 feet of total length because of the sag, but like we went straight to 12. So now tarps are gonna get bigger too, and like
It's gonna be a palace.
yeah, that's true. Do you ever get to backpack anymore?
I am planning a trip. I'm planning a trip for the end of next month.
Good.
That I am hoping this shutdown ends.
Yeah.
It's a good 5-day hike. I did go on a good winter one this year.
Okay, nice.
I remember someone once telling me when I started becoming a vendor, it was Darby from Trail to Tree, Tree to Trail. So I never forget which one. They're no longer in business, but Darby went and said, "Do you like backpacking? Because you're not going to do that."
That's why I wanted to ask you.
You do get out. Unfortunately, a lot of the times it winds up being a hang.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
not
cool.
really
Yeah.
backpacking. And,
Yeah.
and a hang for a vendor is work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just talking about the same stuff and it's not certainly, and you never go solo anymore.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, I do certainly miss that. And every year I say this is going to be the year. As long as a pandemic doesn't happen this year.
No, we were at the end of next month, Memorial Day, the week of Memorial Day, we were set to go do 100 miles in the Arizona Trail, and that's all shot now. So we're still going. We're not going to Arizona. We're still doing 6 days at the end of May. Fingers crossed. So we had to re-engineer our plans just because all the flights got canceled out of Flagstaff, so we couldn't even get in and out. So we have to drive somewhere. So we're really hoping by the end of May, at least it's calmed down enough. Like we were like, we can't even go to the Smokies because the second that opens back up, there's going to be thousands of people there. So we have to now think about, all right, where can we go? And you're in Lancaster, right?
Yep.
So you're close. It's random. I've actually been to Lancaster very randomly. But you've got some good backpacking options in that area, especially you can shoot down to down south a little bit. We got nothing in Central Ohio, man.
No, yeah.
It's bare. It's bare bones.
The Shenandoah is a good. And New England is just full of backpacking.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And where I'm located in Pennsylvania is nice because the AT kind of curves around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can hit all these different places on the AT with a 1 to 2 hour drive.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's not us.
And you could hit anywhere along pretty much the entire Pennsylvania Appalachian Trail, 275 miles within 2 hours.
Do you think you're gonna thru hike ever again?
Oh, I'd like to, but I got a daughter. My daughter's a high maintenance.
What
daughter.
about our whole thing is we don't have kids yet, but when our kids are 18, that's when we're through hiking. We're when they're out of the house.
That has been an idea, or maybe she has to drive. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what parenting is.
Yeah.
You are driving them places. So
would it be the PCT?
I would love to do the PCT.
That's a tough hang in the desert.
I've redone most of the AT.
Yeah.
I got 1,100 miles of the AT redone.
Wow.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. Nice.
Yeah. So I keep thinking, I jam in 800 miles and I got myself another through hike.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying biking.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about bike packing because I know
Went
you
some
and
trips last year,
Yeah.
and it's kind of nice to be able to hit a restaurant at every meal.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was whenever you did a bike packing trip with Adam from Hammock Gear. That's when we went to Colorado in 2018, and that's when I first saw people bike packing. I first saw that was a thing, and I was
Yes.
like, this makes a lot more sense. You can go way further. You can get a restaurant every meal. You can go on roads. And I don't know if that was before or after. And then I saw you guys did some like epic out west bike packing trip.
No, you went to like through the Midwest, didn't you?
Yeah, we went through. Basically, we took 2 big trips, and we've gone from Kansas City. Yeah, we went from Kansas City to Ohio.
No.
in 2
Okay.
trips.
Wow.
The one was cold. It was 20 degrees every single day. So that's cold on a bike, man.
Yeah, I know.
That's cold.
What mileage do you do for bike packing?
We did do 100-mile day.
Oh,
That nearly killed me.
Yeah.
okay.
That was afterwards. We went into a hotel, and he's like, "Come on, let's go to the restaurant." And the restaurant was like, I swear to you, it was not in the hotel's parking lot, but it was in the next parking lot. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, get me an Uber." But well, I think I'm 60-mile day.
Yeah.
is a
I
good
have
one
no
for me.
concept of what a regular mileage bike packing day
60
is.
sounds a lot. I've done
That
one.
still
I've,
sounds like a lot.
I've done a 105 one time, and that was
Not with a pack though.
No.
Yeah, I've biked 105 a day, but not with stuff on me and on a road bike. Because you're not on a road bike, right? Or you're on more of a hybrid.
Well, the one trip was on a hybrid, but now I'm on a road bike.
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing nice about bike packing is the gear is beautiful.
Yeah.
You can just keep buying gear, and backpacking you can only carry so much.
Yeah.
Boy, when you get to bike packing and that gear becomes incredible.
Yeah.
You get the bags that go onto it, and you switch them up for all these different trips, whether you're going on rail trails or what have you. So if you like gear and you don't mind spending outrageous amounts of money,
Yeah. That's what we need. Another hobby that requires us to buy more gear.
No. So I think we clearly can't we can't do this without talking about the Banyan hammock.
Yes. I know. And I can't believe it took us this long to get to it. It's been 50 minutes.
You know what? I've been telling Kevin for a few years. I was just like, there's a few, bridge style hammocks, and I was like, I wonder if Dutchware will come out with one. And
He called this, and we did a podcast with Mark a month or 2 ago. He didn't say anything, and we were talking to him. We're like, Mark, what have you been doing lately? And he's like, I can't say what it is, but we've been working. And I'm like, we're like, it's a bridge hammock, isn't it? He didn't say anything. So I've been in I started hammocking in 2016. You started hammocking a little bit before that. And then I did about 3 solid years in a hammock. And then all of a sudden last year, my legs, and I think it was because I ran a bunch of marathons, and my legs started getting really screwy when I would do more than like 3 nights in a hammock. So then I went for trips longer than 3 nights. I went to a tent. And then for all the weekend trips, I'm still in my chameleon. And then I was talking to Mark, and then we were up in Wisconsin, and there were 2 dudes that had Ridge Runner. This was before the Banyan was out, and there were 2 dudes that had Ridge Runners. And they were like, dude, the bridge hammock, if you have problems in a gathered end, the bridge hammock is the way to go. And I've never even, other than seeing one there, I've never laid in one. And I was talking to Mark literally like last week, and I was like, all right, dude, do I need to get this? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, done. So so I've never laid in one. I've only laid in a gathered end hammock. Like what from arguably the biggest hammock master we've ever talked to, what is the difference? Like, what can I expect?
There is a certain way of laying in a bridge.
And I'm a side sleeper.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, if you go full on your side, it's kind of okay. But then when you tuck up your knees, it's not easy to do that.
Okay.
I don't normally sleep in the fetal position side sleeping. So I don't normally do that.
Well, the most comfortable way for me to sleep in a bridge hammock is almost like 3/4 of the way on your side.
Okay.
Okay.
You're not on your back for sure.
Yeah.
And I find the back to be kind of difficult. It's really great for lounging.
Yeah.
Because you can do this, and that's comfortable.
Right.
But you don't really sleep like that.
Yeah.
And then if you're just flat on your back, it just feels weird for your arms because your arms have to be like on top of your body because just the way that it curves up there around your hips and stuff. And it gets narrow there. But if you turn yourself 3/4 of the way towards your side, maybe put one arm underneath your head, it totally feels natural.
Really?
And the way that a bridge hammock is suspended, it's not suspended from the ends. You're really getting the suspension from those side hems.
Yeah.
And it carries your weight in like a different way. Everyone says that it's the flattest lay, but the human body really isn't flat.
Yeah.
And when we started talking about that in the hammock world, we were just talking about, hey, I don't want my knees to be bent backwards,
Right.
laying straight, so I go diagonal. But if you really look at underneath that person, it's not
Right.
a board. And if you were to have a see-through mattress, you would be like that person.
Yeah,
on
there's
a
like a
flat bed.
Yeah.
Is curving, and so the bridge hammock, the way it supports you all the way through your body is really, really sleep. It is what makes me sleep so well.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you are adrift in water or something.
Interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and I've always been
so
a big
excited
fan
for this.
of a bridge hammock. I was there. I was there in the very beginning when the Jack Sarbetter came out with the Bear Mountain Bridge. Grizz and this guy named Tadi were doing all this work with the bridge hammocks, coming up with the aerial, and that was the front runner of the Ridge Runner, which I've always been a big fan of the Ridge Runner. His pockets on the side there are saddlebags are just genius, and they just if you're ever feeling there, it's almost like he made that to fit you.
Yeah.
That things just there's a place for like small things, a place for bigger things. It's but the comfort of, and also it's so much easier to quilt.
See,
that was something we want to talk to you about because
Yeah.
his biggest hang up, and not with the Banyan, but his biggest hang up with getting a Ridge Runner was he had to buy a separate underquilt.
well, I mean, people like talk about how you can mod it, and so I talked to Mark about like,
Oh, Mark was like, I got a UGQ Zeppelin on this thing, like no problem. I'm like, I got a UGQ Zeppelin, so I'm getting. So he's like, you'll be fine. So like it really like he was just saying you have to play with the suspension a little bit versus a gathered end, but he's like it'll fit on there. He really sold me on this hammock. I mean, he was like, because you know Mark's got like hammocks for days, and I was like, is this your go-to hammock now? And he's like, absolutely. And I'm doing the whole Tahoe rim trail on it. And he's like, if you're having issues in a gathering end, you need to check it out. And I was like, well, done, bought.
yeah, and the double like ridge.
And the ridge line is so
interesting.
cool. And I like how you did the shelf. You did like the shelf with the ridge line organizers.
Saddlebags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
That
is
is
so
cool.
cool. So I was like clearly buying one of those.
Are you shipping non-PPE orders right now?
I already asked him. I talked to him about this.
I am.
He's working
I'm
18-hour days.
in stock items. However, I got to tell you, Banyan is not one of them right now.
Yeah. No,
And it's
obviously.
actually that is a very hard product to make.
Really?
And one of the biggest reasons is the ridge lines, although they really give it a unique shape, and they really hold that bug net up nice and open.
Yeah.
That it is a nice big cavern, and it does the whole thing really neat where you switch to the winter top cover.
Yeah.
And this pocket of air that's in there. But yet, you're really able to bend it well, and it does all that well. But what the ridge lines do the best for you is you get a consistent lay in it every time because you set it up just like you would a gathered end.
Yeah.
You set it up there, and you feel that ridge line, and if it's got like 5 to 10 pounds of pressure, you have it set right. Now, in doing that, we kept we went for a long time, and we would make this, and it wouldn't work out the next time. And then we would make a top and be like, why is everything sagging? And we would adjust things, and we would measure things. And what we really found out was that even though after you take a whoopee sling and you make it, when you load it up, it stretches. Not so much the am steel stretches, but your bury stretches. And the dog bones that make up all of the suspension of the bridge, the ridge lines and those triangles, I gotta tell you, a lot of the work that went on to that thing was those 6 pieces that make that. And we had to make them so that they don't stretch.
Wow.
Interesting.
Because if a heavier person got into it than a light person, it would be different. And also, it would be different, the second time that you used it.
Yeah.
So I can't give out how we did that, but it took a lot of it, and that dual ridge line gives you the consistency every single time because it's set up exactly the same, just like you would a gathered end hammock. And that is really key because if you don't have a bridge hammock, so much goes into that arc that's on the side and how much that pulls up your butt. And that's done by how far it pulls apart, pulling that up, supporting you. So if you're really good, you can get it consistent, but that's hard to do. And it also requires getting in and being like, nah, that's not right, getting out and setting it right. Now it has ridge lines. The ridge line's tight. that you're right. And you can't put it too far because the ridge lines are going to stop you.
Nice.
Interesting.
So how much times go, like how long did it take you to like perfect that?
It was probably a year and a half of working on that hammock. Now, I say that, but we get busy during the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not developing hammocks during the summer.
Yeah.
And we keep hoping to release things for the spring. But if we don't get it out by the spring, we're not going to do it during the summer. So we drop it down and we start working on it in the fall again.
Okay.
So it took
see.
2 winters, I should
How
say.
how many prototypes did you go through with that hammock before you like settled on the on the one?
Well, the things are made in components.
Yeah.
So we had to start with the body and we had to go and get that down. And actually that wasn't that hard because it's really just a bridge hammock.
Yeah.
There really isn't that much into it. The toughest part was definitely the top. And a lot of that, first of all, we were chasing our tail because I told you about the things stretching.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't realize that to begin with. So we would go and we would make a bug net for it, and it would have nice glass. It was perfect. And we'd be like, this is the dimension, make this again. And then we get the next time, and but things stretched and not stretched and whatever. And we go and it would have wrinkles in it. And we're like, no, and we didn't understand what was going on, but what was going on. I mean, even the triangles stretch, but the ridge line's attached to the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So if the triangles stretch, it moves the ridge line.
Yeah.
Finally, when we got that all figured out, then there was the passing of the how to attach the ridge line to the bug net.
Yeah.
And we think about keeping it external.
Oh, I see.
We really like to have the shelf part of it
Yeah.
inside there. So and also these are kind of somewhat expensive pieces to be making a ridgeline. I think is $9 if I was to sell one. So, you're putting 2 of them, you just add $18 to the cost of this hammock. So we had to determine what the ridgeline stays with. We were thinking about making it so the ridgeline attaches to the bug net, and then each bug net or top cover would have an internal ridgeline that attaches to that same point.
Wow.
And that way we could still have a shelf. The pass through from where the ridgeline goes through the bug net is a really big challenge. And to make it so it, you can, first of all, the customer has to be able to put it through.
Mm-hmm.
And second off, a bug can't go through.
Right.
Because people will freak out. People shouldn't be out in the woods, because if there is a tiny little hole, and they're like, bugs are gonna chew my face off.
Yeah.
I'm like, stay home.
That's pretty funny. That's cool. Because I was watching the video about how you it gets fed through with that Velcro system you guys have. Like, that's very cool. Looks like a lot of R&D went into that.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it definitely did, and there was a lot of variations of that. So when we say of how many prototypes we did, a lot of the energy that we put into that was into how that ridgeline attaches, how it goes through there, and shaping of that bug net after we figured out the suspension changes.
Okay.
The body was not. I'll tell you what. I got another bridge that I made before this one, and it's even better.
Can I buy that one?
Yeah, can we buy that?
It is outrageously good. I've taken it out hiking. I love it. I've not put a bug net on it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't even know if I want to mess it up with a bug net. Just maybe do some kind of like a bottom entry bug net on it.
Yeah.
Or something.
Okay.
Like a drape.
But,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I got one that is just the most fantastic on comfort. We really dialed in on the comfort, and it was the direction that we were going to go on. And then we went to the Banyan, and we're darn proud of the Banyan.
Yeah.
There's another one coming that it'll probably be 2 years, but
Oh, nice, nice. Well, I'm very pumped. Whenever you guys are back up and running to get my hands on that, I'm super excited. And Andy and I, we've loved everything you guys have come out with, and I think you've done a lot for just the hammock industry in general.
Yeah, Chameleon, come on.
Yeah,
We love that hammock.
We love that hammock. Thank you so much for talking to us today. This was super
you
fun.
bet.
This
Yeah.
is
I always enjoy you guys on
Hey,
your
by the
podcast.
way, thank you for.
we didn't even get to.
Yeah,
When you made us that stuff sack with the pouch on it.
You made us some free stuff a few years
made
ago.
you made our day when that came.
That was awesome.
Andy and I fangirled so hard when that showed up at my door. You should have seen my wife's face. It was so funny. And this podcast was very cool because I think I'm going to post this on Hammock Forums. I think we got a very cool history of hammock development in this first 30 or 40 minutes. I thought that was very cool. And, and there should be some sort of hammock museum up in your shop or something. And I just thought that insight into the history was awesome. So thank you so much for talking to us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys have a secret fan, because I have a hard time keeping an eye on all these things. But Big Carl, you may or may not know who Big Carl is.
No,
We
reached. Yeah,
we haven't talked to him in a while.
We haven't talked to him in a while.
but we know who that is.
Yeah.
he helped us.
But he's a big fan. He's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So he'll go, and he went and he told me about, hey, you should make them the stuffed sack with the pocket.
Oh, nice.
And he was the reason for that. I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that.
I use it all
Oh
the time.
yeah, we still use it.
These guys were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go with it.
No, and he actually emailed us, and he was like, he took credit for that. He's
Yeah.
like, I told him about,
really?
I told you guys about Dutch. So I'm like, thank you. But no, this was really cool to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and
Yeah.
stay safe. So that's very cool. All the PPE stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys get back up and running as soon as possible. I know everybody wants that.
Next, we have a plan. We have a plan this
Good,
next week.
good.
We're we got in on the CARES Act loan,
Mhm.
Okay, nice.
and And part of that is they need you to pay people.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So we are setting up that people are going to work from home
Okay.
Cool.
to the maximum amount they possibly can, doing a
Right.
lot of splicing.
Right.
Nice.
They can splice for the whole year for all I care.
Yeah.
Here's spools. You know how many soft shackles you can get out of one of those 1,000-foot spools?
Oh, that's hilarious. Good. I'm glad to hear you guys have a plan and you're coming back up soon, and that's good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
All right, guys. You
All right.
take care, okay?
No, you take care.
Yeah.